Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about the whole Sabretooth situation, because the last video I posted on my channel was basically to a point where Kabam Mike came out, said it's a bug. They will not let Sabretooth get that many Furies, and they'll do something about it and it will be resolved as soon as possible. Evidently at the time when I went to sleep, because it was quite late for me when I posted that video, he faced a lot of community backlash, and not even a backlash, just kind of like community members flat out proving Kabam Mike to be absolutely wrong, where I think the best person to quote here would be DNA 3000, where he has an absolutely well articulated post kind of like explaining that he was always meant to go above 15 Furies, because that kind of like text and language has been included in his ability descriptions, not to mention that developer notes specifically stated for Sabretooth to throw that level 3 or finish the fights with level 3 to go above 15 passive Fury effects. And with that, it also was kind of like calculated that currently Sabretooth is able to go to up to a maximum of 23 Furies with 6 persistent charges basically. And that is kind of like his current max output. So there was a lot of back and forth on the forums, and then Kabam Mike's basically came out saying that they agree with the arguments presented here and the feedback, and also the possible solution that also stemmed from this thread itself is that they're going to cap it at 25. Later, when they actually decided to go through with it, they decided to cap it at 30 instead. So currently the maximum amount of Furies you can gain on Sabretooth is 23, realistically without like any extra help. But it will be up to 30, and with 30 Furies, let's be fair, Sabretooth will hit really hard. However, let's just go through what does it mean, kind of like step by step, bit by bit. When it comes to actual solution, I think this is most reasonable and best case scenario could have happened with the Sabretooth synergy, because this doesn't affect how Sabretooth functions currently. It doesn't affect any kind of like his base kit that he already has. Therefore, it cannot say that Sabretooth actually got any alterations at all, because currently he's not able to go past 23 Furies no matter how much you try. Additionally, this still obviously means that Sasquatch synergy will give him significant boost in damage, and most importantly will enable him to retain his damage throughout the entire quest without having to reset the charges, re-amp him up, so on and so forth, which was one of the biggest downfalls the champion had. So at the 30 Fury cap, there's actually a damage showcase video which we can talk about in a moment, but yeah, he's still going to be very great damage dealing champion. He's going to be kind of like up there with kind of like most of the heavy hard hitting champions. Now, however, good, solid, up there in the case of Sabretooth, in my personal opinion, is not going to quite cut it in order to insert him in the current meta, which is the second point that we're still going to be talking about, because unfortunately, when it comes to most of the difficult content outside of Labyrinth and Abyss, typically what you're looking for is not just the incredible amount of damage. You're looking for a lot of different utility abilities, immunities, abilities to bypass, evades, unstoppable, so on and so forth. And Sabretooth has very little to offer in that field, and I personally do not see all of a sudden Sabretooth becoming extremely kind of like viable option for majority of the Act 6 fights or anything of the sort, even if he can ramp up his damage, because truth to be told, in many of the fights he probably wouldn't even be able to get to level 3, or you're gonna have no quote-unquote easy warm-up fights to try and ramp up Sabretooth, and that would end up having you use a lot of revives to try and get him ramped up on like one specific fight, which is likely more items and resources you would use normally to clear it with a regular standard kind of like questing team, or even with Sabretooth without trying to ramp him up. So all of these things kind of like combined, I don't think Sabretooth will have like very significant place in AQ, AW, Act 6 meta, so on and so forth. When it comes specifically to Labyrinth and Abyss of Legends, I can potentially see him as a B or C caliber Labyrinth option, as in he's going to be hitting very hard, but realistically there are far better options, not just because they deal more damage, but because they are either more sustainable or they are able to cover more fights, wider immunities, or wider access to true accuracy, or what have you. For instance, Sabretooth, yes, he's going to be up there with his damage output, but he will still never in no condition compare, for instance, to Aegon, because Aegon, for instance, can take Electro fight, which Sabretooth obviously can't. Sabretooth can't, without at least the Nick Fury synergy, take Guillotine fight, and he definitely will not be able to take Abomination fight. Additionally, I don't know, Spider-Man fights will be hard with that damage output, and these are all of the fights that Aegon can do, and most of the kind of like other popular Labyrinth options. So he will be an option for Labyrinth, but he's definitely not going to be in kind of like top ranked options for Labyrinth in general. And a similar case for Abyss, and even more so for Abyss, because hitting hard has never been enough for Abyss. As a great example, for instance, is Doom. Doom isn't the hardest hitting champion in the game. Doom isn't even the hardest hitting Mystic. The reason why he's so good for Abyss is because he covers a lot of matchups and he has a lot of utility abilities that help you push through the fights that otherwise would be difficult. Now, if Sabretooth theoretically was able to get to 100 Furies, obviously his usability factor would be significantly higher, because he would be simply able to outdamage a lot of these issues, problems, or what have you. But with the 30 Furies, putting him kind of like in line with the hardest hitting champions, but at the same time without having that utility required from the hardest hitting champions, I just don't realistically see Sabretooth as a very, very good Labyrinth Abyss option, especially considering that he will still demand that synergy partner to be brought in, which means you're going to have less champion spots left over to deal with the fights Sabretooth can't do, and there will be quite few of them. For instance, Sabretooth was never going to be able to do tech fights, where tech champions will simply drain all of his power. I don't think Sabretooth is going to be doing very well against cosmic champions who will go unstoppable, and then you have to play around that whole auto blocks, or I don't know, Hyperion Fury, so on and so forth. So there's going to be a whole bunch of fights that he's not going to be too good for, which is normal, but overall I think that will also kind of like put him out of I don't know, most desired options for Abyss anyways. I'm sure somebody is going to go through Abyss. I'm sure it's also not going to be quote-unquote the best or the cheapest run, but I'm sure somebody's going to push him through Abyss. But all things considered, unfortunately, this change, to me, in my personal opinion, initially kind of like eliminates Sabretooth potential to enter the meta significantly. It's always going to be a neat, nice, solid, good thing for him to have, and he's certainly better champion for it, but that will not quite enable him to, I don't know, make everybody's eyes sparkle. I might be wrong there, obviously. I'm not saying that I'm always right in all my predictions, but still, when it comes to people being mad at CCP, I do not think that it is CCP's like fault at all whatsoever for finding a cool thing and making videos about it. That's pretty much entirety what YouTube is meant for and what YouTube is supposed to do, to showcase cool things, cool interactions, post educational videos, so on and so forth, and just entertain people. And at the very least, the content that was put up for Sabretooth was extremely entertaining, and it did get people excited. Now, somebody is always to blame though. Who is obviously to blame? To me, as far as I'm concerned, it's directly the person who designed Sasquatch and who designed the synergy for Sabretooth in the first place without realizing the implications or quote-unquote the brokenness of it. And the best way how to put this is, if somebody who designed that synergy had the diligence to actually realize what that synergy does, then Kabam more than likely would have put a silent cap on Sabretooth passive Fury effects at 25 or 30. And nobody would have been the wiser. There would have been no CCP videos showcasing that he can go above 30, that he can go to 100 Furies and hit like an absolute track. And nobody would know that silent Fury cap didn't exist there before, because we have absolute ton of champions who have these specific caps in game and we don't know about them up until the time we test and try it. For example, X23 cannot gain more than 5 bleed debuffs on opponent. When you try to get 6th one, it's simply going to refresh the latest one. For instance, Black Bolt cannot gain more than, I think, 15 of each Cruelty and Fury buffs when you're running him fully synergized up. For instance, mcoc cannot gain more than 4 Incinerates at any given time from his heavy attack. So these caps are a very common thing. I don't like them, but they do exist, and there was absolutely no reason to assume that, for instance, Sabretooth wouldn't have a cap like that placed on him. And since we had never had a chance prior to this incident to actually check and test it, there would have never been any fuss when it would turn out, okay, Sabretooth has a 30 passive Fury cap. Cool. But now, since this all happened, the way it happened obviously just shows Kabam in a very, very kind of like bad light, where they are always extremely quick to jump on something that's hyped and good for players, where they take forever to fix things that are bad for players, where this and that and that and that and that. And I don't necessarily want to kind of like go with this narrative this time. I just think somebody in the company was extremely short-sighted, that didn't realize the implications of their work, and it all kind of like spiraled out of control, in a sense that all of these CCP hype videos came out, then Sabretooth crystals came for sale, which is the most unfortunate thing in my personal opinion, because without a doubt a lot of people already dropped a lot of cash on Sabretooth crystals, seeing these synergies, because Sabretooth is the champion you want as far as it goes to getting Sasquatch, and people were saying, oh, at least they fixed it before Sasquatch actually came out and before Sasquatch crystals came out. Well, fact of the matter is that there would have been plenty of people who simply grind out a 4-star or something for Sasquatch, but Sabretooth with the key piece that you needed is a 5 or 6-star champion, and therefore for many people that would be where they invested the money in. Obviously that doesn't cover everybody, but you cannot absolutely dismiss whatsoever the fact that Sabretooth got hyped. People would have bought those Sabretooth crystals, which they otherwise wouldn't have if there would be no mistake made by Kabam. So I think Kabam does have to take some sort of responsibility for that, which they obviously won't. They'll just ignore and pretend everything is normal and nothing ever happened, like they always do. But again, I do not think that creating these videos at all any shape, way, or form in this particular case obviously is the fault of CCP. I do think, however, Kabam has messed it up, and then obviously Kabam Mike came out and put on more oil to the fire by saying it's a bug, which absolutely pissed off more people. So it's again a huge L for Kabam Mike and a huge L for whoever designed Sasquatch. But when it comes to the rest of the response and how it was handled, in my opinion, it actually kind of like worked out relatively well. Obviously, it's still an unfortunate, really unfortunate situation where people's emotions got played with, somebody's money got wasted, Kabam is going to take no responsibility, where, again, you get hyped and you get destroyed, and it just doesn't look good for the company. And yeah, I think that is pretty much it, what I think about this whole debacle. So I still obviously think that this synergy will be good for Sabretooth, but unfortunately with a cap of 30, which is healthy for the game, and I do agree on this cap of 30, because if there would be no cap, I would absolutely hate the idea of people just starting a quest and tossing 20 revives to ramp up Sabretooth to go and clear a quest. I don't think that is a kind of like good behavior for the game. But yeah, I think a cap of 30 overall is very reasonable, and it's kind of like a good midpoint solution. But unfortunately, at the same time, with a cap of 30, I just don't think Sabretooth is in fact going to turn into anything quote-unquote special. He's going to be somewhat more capable version of Winter Soldier, if you will. Synergy, because that synergy is good, that synergy is solid, it makes Winter Soldier similar to Star-Lord. The problem is it's just not good enough, because there are far better champions and far better options out there. But yeah, I think that's about it for today's video. So if you guys have made it this far, huge thank you to you. You guys are troopers, and because of that, obviously, as always, you deserve a tiny bit of Baby Yoda. Whilst you are being mesmerized by the beauty of this green creature, why don't you talk to me about how you feel about the changes to the yellow creature? Let me know what you think about the solution. Let me know what you think about the whole incident in general, about the Cavalry crystals appearing for sale. day after hype videos coming out and then that all getting nerfed. And yeah, overall, I think it obviously still paints Kabam in a really, really bad light. I wish they would take responsibility for releasing the Cavalier Crystals whilst this whole thing was happening. And other than that, as far as solution comes, I think Sabretooth is going to be better balanced champion, still nowhere near good enough to kind of like get his rightful place in either meta. But yeah, that is it, and I'm going to catch you guys soon. See ya!